Hey there, this is episode 102 of the first 10 minutes. I'm Tony Parmetto.
I am Steve Halliwell.
And I am Aaron Williams.
And this is a video games podcast where we play the first 10 minutes of a video game. Then we sit down here to discuss how well that game communicates itself to the player, both in terms of what the game is about and how to play the game. And in response to our latest listener poll, which you can find at the first 10 minutes on Twitter, you, the listeners, voted for us to play Tesla versus Lovecraft. Steve, you're playing the game again this episode. Over to you.
I did. Alrighty, so in terms of data, we find that Tesla vs. Lovecraft has no Wikipedia entry.
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's unknowable. It's an unknowable horror.
It is. It's an unknowable game.
Oh, metatextual. I love it.
Very much unlike the monsters in Tesla vs. Lovecraft. Very knowable.
Yeah, it's super knowable.
So Steam tells us that Tesla vs. Lovecraft is an intense top-down twin-stick arena shooter from the creators of Crimsonland and Neon Chrome.
Nice.
Plays the enigmatic inventor Nikola Tesla, harnessing the static energy to power up Tesla-Mech and give the Lovecraftian nightmares a lesson in horror.
So, I have some questions.
Yes, please.
So, Nikola Tesla and H.P. Lovecraft were real people,
Yes.
What?
but I'm pretty sure they never had a fight.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the intro cutscene for this video game, but
No, I have.
They clearly had a disagreement.
All right, cool. All right, I'm ready. I'm keen for this.
So the Steam tag genre is indie, action, Lovecraftian, top-down shooter, local co-op, single player, destruction, science, sci-fi, horror, futuristic, mechs, twin-stick shooter, local multiplayer, RPG, split screen, great soundtrack, atmospheric.
Great soundtrack.
Yep. All right, so let's do a quick run through of what we get. If you'd like to watch the video of me playing 10 minutes, you can find it in the show description, show notes below. There'll be a link to our YouTube video of me playing through that 10 minutes available for you. Mm-hmm. What you may not have there is the intro cutscene. We'll quickly go through that, so it'll help clear up some of this confusion that we have.
Intense confusion.
So our intro cutscene is stills, sort of like moving stills. So we have like multi-layered cutouts, so like they kind of like an animatic kind of layout, except these are pre-rendered CG Teslas and Lovecrafts and a security guard.
Right.
Okay.
But the setup that we get in this animatic style cutscene is that Tesla is famously doing his wireless power demonstration.
Yep.
And Lovecraft is in the audience.
Oh, no.
Lovecraft is in the audience and screams for him to stop and doesn't know what he's doing. And he gets escorted out by the security guards for disrupting
Lovecraft.
the show. Classic, always a troublemaker. And then Tesla asks the guard who that man was, and he says, "Pay him no mind, he's just a fiction writer." And we get a shot with Lovecraft in jail, behind bars, and sort of the scene darkens, his eyes glow green, and we get a very typical sort of Cthulhu appear behind Lovecraft.
Right.
So I'm not sure, I'm a little confused there if Lovecraft summoned the Elder Gods because he got put in jail, or if he's sort of more of a divining rod for the Elder Gods.
Steve, this might be a strange and perhaps preemptive question, but is Lovecraft in this story allegorical for Thomas Edison?
See, that would make more sense, wouldn't it?
It would.
And I'm not sure. I have played more than 10 minutes of this game, but it hasn't really come up.
I mean, it's kind of difficult, like, to envision what sort of beasties Edison would recruit to utilize.
Well, you see, I think the thing is Edison was renowned for being really, really litigious, so maybe that extends beyond the grave, and that's the reason why he's not in this video game.
Perhaps it's a commentary on Edison's penchant for stealing other people's ideas.
Right.
Now you're onto something.
And so he's just stolen all of Lovecraft.
Yeah. It is actually Edison.
In all seriousness, Thomas Edison probably not as pop culture ready in this day and age as Tesla and Lovecraft.
No. Much more packageable, these two characters.
Yeah. David Bowie never played Edison.
He didn't. All right. So on our main menu after this cutscene, this sort of implies that Tesla has summoned the Elder Gods by making electricity rods. Our main menu has Tesla on one side in a mech with lightning coming out of him.
Right.
On the other side of my menu, which is like my play options exit, is presumably Lovecraft in a sort of hovering, I've written betentacled nightmare. So there's sort of like a gaping maw with tentacles springing out of it in all directions, and he's just sort of riding it like a sort of a Goku magic cloud, if you will.
It sounds to me like a Shoggoth.
Possibly. It certainly could have been, yeah. So I hit play, and I get another cutscene, presumably sometime later, not just later that night, and I have Tesla in his lab, and he hears a noise, and his lab's on fire, he's panicking, and he sees dark figures running away from the lab with stolen equipment. And these are essentially fish-faced people. They have spines, they have webbed hands, and they've sort of run off with Tesla's equipment.
Damn.
There's a tooltip on a loading screen that goes by so quickly, I did not get time to read it when I was playing. So when I get dropped into the game, I have a top-down but perspective view on presumably Tesla in the middle of the screen with a green ring around them. I'm playing with a keyboard and mouse, but it's essentially a twin-stick shooter.
Right.
And I have some sort of hovering instructions in world that tell me that WASD can move me around, and it says use mouse to aim. It has a little icon of what a mouse would be. And so I'm sort of outside in a perhaps Victorian era street. It's very, very colorful. So there's red lights and there's orange lights, there's purples flooding out into this street. So it's got sort of a overly embellished or like lavish cartoon sort of feel to it. Like everything feels candied.
Yep. The type of Lovecraft that's being displayed in this game is sort of like the pop culture version of Lovecraft, which is built around Cthulhu being the primary mascot and being quite cartoony in its appearance.
Okay. So moving around the environment, it's top down. The camera is locked to my avatar. So my avatar is always in the middle of the screen. The camera is just offset from that as I pan around. So I am never not dead center of screen in the time that I play. And I get a little indicator under my character with green arrows showing where the direction of travel is. So like what direction my character is trying to move. And the character faces to wherever my cursor is on screen, which again is that green arrow that I can also see. So I come around a corner and some enemies rush towards me. I pick up a weapon, as I believe it's a shotgun that I pick up afterwards. I think I started with a pistol. And as I shoot enemies, they have health bars that decrease. These are these fish people that I believe stole my stuff earlier.
Yeah.
Do any of them have your stuff currently?
Presently, none of them do. But that is kind of what these first few levels are. The end of the level of these tutorial levels that I'm going through. So they're very short. They're only a couple, like this first one I think is like 10 seconds long. That requires me to basically do a U-shape motion around this little town, and I pick up an item at the end of it, which gives me my level complete. So I believe the first thing I pick up is my backpack, and it then tells me that Tesla's backpack allows him to teleport, as we all know.
Yeah, of course.
Tesla famously
that's
teleport.
Pretty sure I saw that in the Prestige.
Yep. And so the next section that it gives me here is the learning to teleport, which is very, very reminiscent of, any number of games really. But Enter the Gungeon came to mind, because it has a very similar thing of like, you need to learn how to dive over stuff to avoid gaps. And I'm doing a similar thing here. So it tells me to, in the next level, approach a fence, and it says, use space to teleport over the fence.
Kind of similar to Mr. Shifty as well, by the looks of it.
Yeah, similar sort of dash at a fixed distance, which feels a little bit odd when I'm first using it, because I was kind of assuming that it was going to move me to where the mouse cursor is.
Right.
But that is definitely not the case. It's a fixed distance in whatever direction that you're moving. It feels odd to me only because of the way they've presented this first teleport, because there's nothing else happening to this first teleport test. And it's just walking straight down. There's a fence right across the middle of this section. And so my cursor was leading. My cursor was already at the bottom of the screen because I'd come in from the top. And I had it. Something just felt odd about the jump being a fixed distance, despite me having a tool in front of me, having a mouse cursor.
Yeah.
Of having precision of where I wanted to go. That's not how the game works, and it passed relatively quickly. It just felt odd initially.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to jump a shorter distance very, very shortly after this section, and I can't. Right. You have to jump the entire distance.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So I jump over a couple of fences. I don't appear to be able to teleport through buildings, so all these streets are skirted by buildings that I assume I'm never going to go into at this point. I assume they're just walls, like canyons. They're, in fact, completely black on their roofs, so I can't see a surface there. So I'm assuming that there is none.
Yep.
So I'm sort of jumping down over these fences, and then it makes me change direction, and there are walls of fire. I don't believe it gives me a direct instruction to also teleport over these, but I do so, and I learned that is A-OK.
Right.
The The next thing that I get is a power-up, which I believe is fire bullets. As I collect this, the game pauses, so there's a rush of enemies coming at me that have just stopped, so that it can bring this little text arrow down from the top of the screen to show me that in the bottom left-hand corner, there's now a bullet icon with flames coming out of it. So it's letting me know that this little area of the UI is where I'm going to show you your current power-up if you have one. It's also the area where it shows me my current weapon.
Right.
The next thing that I do here, once that sort of interruption goes away, which felt like it took too long. It felt odd to me because I can see a wave of enemies running at me from off screen, like from the top of screen running down at me.
Yep.
But it paused to let me know I have a power up, which felt jarring to me.
Yeah, that feels like a really massive interruption of your flow.
Yeah, only because I had already set my goal of there are more fish people, I must destroy them.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily care about the power up in that moment. But I got the idea. I also learned here that red barrels blow up,
Checks out.
because there are some either side of this doorway that these enemies are spilling out through, so I sort of hit them on purpose by accident, and they blow up.
Right.
This is also where I learn that parts of the environment can blow up as well. So these smaller fences appear to be destructible. So not only can these explosions destroy them, but I'll learn in the rest of my 10 minutes that enemies can destroy them. So if you teleport to the other side of a fence, they can knock it down. And also things that are made out of wood can be destroyed by bullets, it seems. I don't know if things that aren't made of wood are. I didn't find out in 10 minutes.
Okay.
At the end of this level, I get Tesla's watch. It tells me that Tesla's watch allows me to find things. Okay.
As all watches do.
Yeah, and then I get a new level load. Onto my next level. My next level, I think, is the first time that I get to really see what's happening with these spawners.
Right.
And I get a different weapon pickup here. So this time I get a Tommy gun as the weapon that I pick up. And so these pickups in the world have text above them telling you what it is. They sort of have a hovering 3D mesh above the ground, and they're also skirted by like a ring of electricity to indicate that they're a Tesla thing.
Yep.
Whereas all of the enemy things that I'm encountering here, like their spawn radiuses or the locations where some are going to arrive, sort of have a glowing green spire in amongst the green trees and the green grass and the green player health ring and the green player direction icon and the green player reticle.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's an excellent question.
So do you think that because I mean one of the things is like here are the spawn points. Maybe that's something that wants to the design is for that to be obfuscatory, but do you think that that's the intent?
Well, so I don't think the intent is for these things to be obfuscated from me, but I do think that I need to know where enemies are going to spawn from, because when enemies spawn, sort of like 10 of them just appear out of nothing.
Yeah.
And so the feedback that I noticed in these 10 minutes is sort of the glowing green spire of where they will spawn becomes more opaque or gets more intense as that time to spawn gets closer.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty important information.
Yeah. The thing that did confuse me in my 10 minutes is I've lost my cursor in amongst all of the other green numerous times. And when I say green, I mean both of these things are green, just green channel green. And so when I'm moving my cursor around, if I happen to not be paying a lot of attention, it's easy for me to lose where that is in amongst giant green spawning particle effects.
Yep.
And so I kind of found myself ignoring that and trying to look at the direction that Tesla was facing rather than wherever my icon happened to be on screen.
But those are independent of one another.
Well, it's not the easiest thing to spot, but essentially what it looks like it's doing is the top half of Tesla rotates to face where your mouse cursor is, whereas the bottom half of Tesla is trying to show you the direction of travel.
Okay, that could get painful.
Yes, it looks like, well, I mean, he's going to have a rough day, I think, either way. Yeah.
So you're looking at the direction that the weapon is pointing.
Yes.
And just maintaining your look. Okay, so from this, I'm inferring that with the current weapons that you've got, the actual location of your mouse cursor is less important than the direction that you're facing. So it's not like you're lobbing grenades or anything. You're shooting projectiles that travel from you out to your cursor.
Yes, at this stage, all the things that I have are a direction of travel weapon rather than an impact point weapon.
I could see that being a lot trickier if you were lobbing things.
Yeah. The bit where that still becomes a problem is when you dash or when you teleport or when you're trying to circle around an enemy, sort of like that counter motion that you're making with the mouse cursor against your WASD can be hard to track if the cursor is too far into the extremities of the screen, because you find that you're not moving fast enough and it feels like you need to catch up sometimes.
Yep.
But I got used to it, but it did feel a little odd.
So do you think that the desired mode of play for this is with a gamepad?
I'm not sure. I have a feeling that it wouldn't lose anything by doing so.
Okay, why?
Because everything that I've seen is a directional weapon rather than a point of impact weapon.
Sure.
Whereas
I think part of it as well is that there are just so many enemies on screen that this is not really about precision, it's about hurting.
A lot of what I've found is it is much more about being mobile rather than being accurate, which is kind of a departure from Crimsonland, which had a lot of things built around positioning and accuracy, like lining up a lot of things in a row.
Yeah.
Rather than the more Assault Android Cactus style mob management that I have here.
Yeah, it seems very much to me like it's a case of wait for your lane of opportunity, get through it before it closes, and then just spray and pray.
Outside of my 10 minutes, that has been reinforced. Definitely. As I've found power-ups outside of my 10 minutes that sort of give me double, triple, and quadruple the amount of bullets in sort of an arc. So you end up having sort of like a shmup-like thing happening where you just have like 45 degrees in front of you is just covered in death.
Yeah.
So as long as you're...
The sort of in the vein of like a scrolling space shooter like a Xenon 2 or something like that, or... Yeah,
where there's kind of just, if anything's in front of me, it's dead now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so precision aiming doesn't seem to be a thing that it's caring about.
That feels like it leans in quite nicely to the Tesla electricity mech kind of vibe of things.
Yeah.
So is any of that coming into it at this point, or are you just like running around with a shotgun?
I'm just running around as Tesla with a backpack on, with at this point a shotgun and a Tommy gun.
Okay.
So not yet.
All right. Just in summary, then, I guess what you're saying with this coloration is that it's not easy being green.
It's not easy being green. It's not easy everything being green. Yeah. The next two things that I get introduced to here are special abilities that are in-world that you can pick up. In particular, this first one that I get is called Nova, which looks like a big watch with a red ring on it on the ground that I run over. And it tells me, again, I get that game pause and a thing comes down and shows me, you've found an ability. And I use right mouse button to activate this. This is also the first point in this level where it shows me an actual spawner. So it shows me I'm just going to say it's a Chibi Thulu. It's a Chibi Thulu statue with glowing green eyes and a health bar above it. And I shoot it enough and it gets destroyed, and then it stops spawning things, and then it tells me that I've won the level.
It's very, very connected to that cute Cthulhu aesthetic that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, and it tells me that I've completed the level. And this is the first time I get to see a map. So there's actually like an overworld map with like a town of Arkham with pins all over
Batman.
it. Yeah, Batman will save us.
Yeah, it was the Joker all along.
Yep. This confused me when I first saw it, and if you watch the video back, I'm sure you'll be able to tell that Steve doesn't know what he's doing, because it hadn't shown me a map yet, and I'd already done 4 levels.
Yep.
And I was just like, what do I do? So this map has drawing pins all over it, and there's a very winding path going between them.
Right.
Some of these areas have names like the docks, cemetery, murky forest, etc. And it looks like I'm up to or I've already done 4 of these pins.
Okay.
All right.
Because they're a different color.
This path is meant to represent your travel through the city?
I'm guessing so. I do notice, however, that some of these pins have tentacles wrapped around them. And so I'm assuming those are either harder levels or maybe boss fights. Or something like that. Maybe there's special levels that I unlock later. I'm not sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now might be a good time for me to sort of metaphorically throw down the gauntlet here, Steve. How is this? Where is the versus Lovecraft coming in here? Because you're fighting a lot of Lovecraftian things. But
yes, and that is all I shall do for my next 10 minutes.
Okay.
So I do not know in this 10 minutes or beyond if Lovecraft, the person, ever returns.
Presumably, like my guess is that you're working your way to the prison, where you'll have some sort of confrontation with him?
Maybe. It's very hard to tell from this map where the beginning and end are.
Yeah.
Right.
They're connected, but I'm not sure if there is an end that makes sense. My assumption presently is at the end of this run that I will get to the next plane.
Right, okay.
So I don't know if at some point in here I'm going to get another cutscene where we see Lovecraft either secretly doing all of this or maybe possessed by something. It was more the vibe I was getting from the earlier cutscene.
Sure, yeah, totally.
Yep.
But potentially, like, in the end, Lovecraft becomes your, buddy up partner to finish off Cthulhu once and for all.
By riding the tentacle hovercraft.
Yeah, totally. And using the power of science.
Yeah. So we move on from our map. I go into another level. This is the point where it feels like it's going, okay, tutorial over. It's shown me the map, which it hadn't shown me before, and I'm leveling up now, which I don't think I had done before. And so I kind of noticed for the first time that there's these bars at the top of the screen. One that appears to be an enemy count that's always decreasing as I kill enemies until they're all gone and then the level is done. Mm-hmm. And another that has a number in it that fills up as I kill enemies that appears to be my level. Whenever I gain a level, I get a perk. And the way that perk system works is that bar fills up. It says you can press tab now on a keyboard, and I'm not sure it'll be on a controller. You press tab, the game pauses, and it brings up two options. So it looks like it just chooses two random perks for you to choose from. And so the one that I had a screen cap of, which was I think a level 1 perk selection, is do you want 25% chance to avoid incoming damage, or do you want 25% chance movement speed? Sorry, 25% movement speed increase. And so you can only pick one of these things.
Yeah.
And so every level I get a similar setup. It's like, which of these two things do you want now?
Yeah, which of these two useful things do you value more right at this moment?
Yeah.
Okay, so my producer brain is twitching at the use of the word level. So for clarity's sake, when you say level, you mean character level, not environment that has loaded in after a loading screen.
Yes, this is my XP level.
Right, yep.
And the other thing that's worth clarifying here is that level is per level.
Oh, so you go back to the start at a new level.
So like a MOBA.
yes. Right. Like a MOBA. Or like a Crimsonland, if you would.
So Steve, I think of everything watching your gameplay video that surprised me, and there were a few things. These binary choice pop-ups that are completely interrupting your flow of play were probably the most surprising to me because you have many of them happening as you're moving through each environment.
Yes.
Did you get a sense, like, were you seeing similar ones when you hit level 2 in each environment? I'm refusing to call both of these things levels. As you hit level 2 in each environment, were you seeing the same choices? Did you get any sense of there being some sort of pattern? Were you able to formulate plans in advance as to when I hit level 2, I'm going to pick this thing as opposed to this thing?
So
similar
I didn't
to, say, XCOM characters, or
I didn't get to the point where I started formulating relying on certain perks at certain levels, but I definitely understood that there are different perks available at different levels.
Okay.
So I get the sense that there are more powerful is perhaps not the right phrasing, but there are more elaborate perks available at higher levels.
Sure.
So things that I'm getting at this level 1 perk choice of, do you want a chance to dodge damage or do you want to move faster? There's also perks in that sort of power bracket of, do you want to shoot 20% faster or do you want to have your teleport recharge faster?
Okay.
So it's sort of like your basic stats that are governing how Tesla operates. Which of these do you want to be a little bit faster?
All right. So I guess my question then becomes, are the choices purely contained to comparing the information that's on the screen?
Yes.
Or are you actually making that evaluation based on how you've been playing the game?
I'm looking at what information I have in front of me because up until this point and inside of this 10 minutes, the way that I'm playing the game has been the same level to level, like environment to environment. The layout in the environments is different, but those are forcing me to move either more or less aggressively, or be aware of what a route that I might run is in the environment, rather than say, oh, this level has excellent high ground, so I'll just stock up on health and stay here. Like, that isn't a thing that I'm doing.
Right.
And moreover, I found that I was favoring certain kinds of perks, like across the board, regardless of what was happening.
Okay.
So I never wanted more health. There's a perk that gives you 30% more health.
Yeah.
If I'm offered that, I'm taking anything else. Now that may be bad move on my part, but to me, like if I'm getting hit at all, I'm doing this wrong. So taking more of them doesn't feel like it's helping me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it might be the sort of thing that you want as a buffer at a later point, but at least early on, it's sort of like if you're unable to avoid these groups of enemies this early on, you've got some learning to do.
But what's the permanence of these choices if you're getting reset every time you move to a new environment?
Well, they only last for that one stage. But they do stack.
Oh, so they stack inside of an individual environment.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think in the 10 minutes there's a level where there's an environment or a stage where I believe I get to level 7, which means that there are 7 perks all active that are all stacking on top of each other.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So if I happen to choose 3 of those as an increase to fire rate, I now potentially have 60% plus fire rate instead of just 20%.
Sure.
So that there's a point, I imagine, in the future where it will be way more beneficial for me to go, you know what, I should probably just take some more health because I really don't need to move any faster anymore, right? Moving faster or shooting faster at this point isn't going to actually do me any good.
Okay.
So those are the kind of perks that I'm getting access to. They're new. The thing that I do like about them, at least, is I'm choosing when I make that decision. So like I get a notification basically when I've leveled up, like that bar flashes and it says I can press tab now to choose. Right. But it doesn't just do it. It doesn't just go, you've leveled up, choose a perk. Mm-hmm. So I get to decide it's safe now for me to disengage with not being killed and be a little bit better.
I'm so glad you said that because that was not clear from watching the footage.
Yes.
Yeah.
It also, however, means that I think in my 10 minutes in one of the levels I sort of forgot that I could do it, and I think it's in the 10 minutes where I kind of realized, oh crap, and sort of went perk, chose one, and then it's like, well, you have another one, and I chose another one. It's like, oh, you still got another one. It worked out fine, so I guess it's all right. So yeah, I felt like I was always favoring a certain kind of perk. I don't know whether that's good or not. I don't know whether that's a downfall of my play, or perhaps just that I'm still too early in the game to realize that having more health is going to be crucial because later on there'll be enemies that are way harder to avoid.
Sure.
And you'll want to have like a gimme to get out of that.
Yeah.
And that is kind of all I get to do in my 10 minutes. I play more levels, but I don't get any new mechanics really. I get introduced to this concept that there are mech parts that I collect, but in my 10 minutes, I don't get to find out what they do.
Right.
Okay.
How do you know that they're important?
They were in a level. They look like the weapons and the power-ups, the abilities that I can collect.
Right, okay.
They're highlighted in a similar way, and they're highlighted by my watch, which is like a edge of screen indicator. It puts an arrow in the corner of the screen where something is. That goes for weapons, pickups, and mech parts. Mm-hmm. And so I picked them up in a level, and like my post-game screen that has like, you've killed 300 of 10,000 whatevers, and you did it in this long and with this many shots. It also, one of those said I collected 3 of 3 mech pieces. I think that level was collect 3 mech pieces to move on.
Right.
But I don't know what mech pieces do yet, which is a shame because they seem like the hook of this game.
Well, they were right there in the title graphic.
They are. Within the next 10 minutes, I learn what mech pieces do.
Right.
And they change the way you play the game substantially.
Oh, okay.
So up until this point, this doesn't feel like a Geometry Wars twin stick shooter. Mm-hmm. I'm not just constantly running away in a big circle from everything, but I know in this 10 minutes that if there's a thing that has an arrow indicator on screen, I really should be running to that unless there's a damn good reason why I can't get there.
Right.
Because picking up these abilities is what makes Tesla powerful enough to overcome the enemies. Like I don't want to run in a big circle with my starting pistol forever. I want to get a better weapon. I want to get power-ups. I want to use those power-ups as quickly as I can because they're going to spawn more for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's a different kind of feeling. It's a twin stick shooter that wants me to move around with purpose rather than just moving around for the sake of it, or in a vector away from enemies.
Yeah.
Okay, so this sort of conjures up a really broad question that I've been wanting to ask you, Steve. So feel free to answer this however you feel works best. Where does this game want your attention to be?
Up in this 10 minutes, I feel like what I'm focusing on is keeping an eye out for the edge of the screen to see when something spawns.
Yep.
trying to build an awareness of the environment that I'm in, because they all have different layouts and they can be quite rabbit warren-y in that they're interconnected and they're angular and there are dead ends. There are narrow hallways or like alleyways.
It's the sort of thing where it's like there's like any corner or aspect of the level could just as easily be an opportunity as it is a threat.
Yeah, and that also, those pickups appear to spawn anywhere in the level. So when I get dumped into an environment, so I'll try and say environment. When I get dumped into an environment, my first point of order is kind of, I should really learn what the bounds of this environment are and how connected it is.
Yeah.
So that when I see an indicator saying there's a pickup in the other corner, I know, or at least I have a sense of how dangerous or how quickly can I get there. So that's kind of the first thing that I'm doing.
Right.
The next
Steve,
thing,
would you describe the layouts as Byzantine?
yes, sure.
Millions of tiny decisions across a long time scale rather than one giant plan.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like making a video game.
Yeah. Well, because of this dirt path we made 2 years ago, this is how combat works now.
Yeah, totally.
So that's the first point of order. The next is me trying to focus on weapons above abilities because my default starting weapon is quite poor and pretty much anything is going to be better than that.
Okay.
Weapons sort of continue to spawn. So at that point, I think I was making decisions around, I have a shotgun. Do I want to keep it or do I want to get a Tommy gun or something else that's more rapid fire that I can aim as opposed to in a big open map, I'm okay with a shotgun.
Sure.
So if you're resetting to level 1 every time you enter a new environment, are you also resetting to the pistol?
And back to the default pistol, yes.
Right, okay. Weird.
You start fresh every level.
The presentation from the beginning of the game seems to indicate that Tesla already possesses the power, that Tesla doesn't need to acquire or learn anything necessarily new to be able to defeat Lovecraft. It still boggles the mind a little bit that you're kind of like going back to square one with each level, environment. But it's weird.
I think, Tony, you already said it earlier, it feels like playing like Dota or LoL. And that is probably a more recent touchstone. Like this, it feels like Crimsonland because this is how Crimsonland does it.
Yeah.
But yes, it does feel like each level is a new challenge set out for you from whatever the base is. In terms of
the levels at this point are also very short.
They are, and they continue to be short.
Right.
They're arena combat challenges.
Right.
And you kind of get used to it. But if you take a step back and look at what's the story that's being told here, Tesla, like I don't know, out of honor, throws away all of his stuff every level so they can have a sword fight. I don't know.
All right. I want to talk about the title of this game.
Yep.
Tesla versus Lovecraft is very catchy. It's immediately conjuring up in my mind something that the game totally isn't, in fact. I was kind of surprised that like you just start the game playing Tesla rather than both of them being involved, or
that's
either a buddy cop situation.
That's what I was thinking too.
An arena brawler or something. Yeah.
It does seem like it should be a fighting game.
Yeah, I've been thinking more and more about this now that I'm aware that you're playing Tesla and only Tesla at this point, and presumably for the majority of the game.
I don't know what the co-op does. Steam says co-op. Maybe you play as Lovecraft.
Okay. You're cast in the role then of by the laws of contemporary storytelling, Steve. You are the protagonist.
Yes.
And if the protagonist is Tesla, then the game is essentially in its title saying it's protagonist versus antagonist, which would mean that in every single sports game, the home team is the protagonist. Red is always the protagonist, and in any democratic litigation, the state is the protagonist. So
the people versus Larry Flint.
Yeah.
Well, so what were your expectations, I guess, going into playing this game, and how do you feel it is living up to the versus part of Tesla versus Lovecraft?
I think I expected. I certainly expected to be shooting a lot of things because I already knew that this was from the developers of Crimsonland.
Right.
So I already knew that much about it, but I was kind of expecting more of what that initial cutscene kind of set up before we just saw Lovecraft in jail. I was expecting more competing ideologies being the through line.
Right.
and kind of having like a Lovecraftian horrors seeping through from the nether,
Yep.
and Tesla being like, it's cool, electricity,
Yeah.
got it.
Yep.
Rather than what it seems like might be happening, which is in the grand finale, I'm going to electrocute Lovecraft.
Okay, because trying to think about Lovecraft as the antagonist here feels a bit odd, because all he really did was cause a public disturbance.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Is like he jumped out and said that what Tesla was doing was dangerous, which it seems like he was right. Like,
Certainly seems it.
yeah, it's like
That was my understanding of the cutscene anyway, yeah.
so maybe this isn't contemporary storytelling, and you are the antagonist. And maybe the end of the game is Lovecraft defeating you. Real inversion of the power fantasy that it's affording you for the rest of it.
All right, let's go to a 10-minute check then, shall we?
Sounds good.
So does the game tell me how to play it? Yes. I think it does so a little bit slower than it could have. I guess there's a balancing act there that I'm struggling with when I say that, of somebody hasn't played a dual-stick shooter before, and it is asking a lot of me relatively quickly in terms of managing the number of enemies it throws at me. Mm-hmm. But there's this push-pull here of the game is going to throw a lot at me, but then it's also taking a long time to explain the keyboard inputs and how to like jump across gaps or through walls. And I think there's an assumption that can be made there that if a player can handle this many enemies, they can probably handle moving around and shooting more rapidly than it's asking me to do so.
Yep.
So I know how to operate the game. It goes perhaps a little heavy-handed with that. In terms of what I'm doing, I get a sense of it here, but outside of my 10 minutes is where that actually hits home. When these mech bits come in, it doubles down on this. You need to be running between pickups.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I'm already doing that, but outside of the 10 minutes, once that mech comes in, every level starts with me being in a mech suit that blows up. And when you're in the mech suit, you're super powerful and don't appear to take damage. The mech blows up, you collect the 6 parts, and you can then recall the mech when you want it for a certain amount of time, and then rinse repeat that. And there's always a mech part in the level. So what it then asks me to do outside of 10 minutes is, hey, there's always more than one thing you should be picking up. You should be picking up a mech part, and you should be picking up better weapons and better abilities and health packs and whatever else. But you want both of those things. You need enough of each to stay alive, but you really want to be able to get the mech, because then you're invulnerable.
Yeah.
So it's kind of told me that. It's told me that I need to be worried about collectibles, that they're the main draw. But right now my attention is split between get cool loot so I can kill things better.
Yep.
Whereas outside of 10 minutes, that is going to be get barely enough loot so that I can manage getting to all the mech bits.
Yeah.
And the actual killing of the mobs outside of my 10 minutes that I've played so far, which isn't a lot, only about an hour, is actually not my primary concern. They more head me off at the pass, so I take a longer route, or that I have to teleport through them.
So it's almost like they become like an annoyance as opposed to your primary threat.
And even more, like doubling down on that Dota analogy, they become the creeps.
Yeah.
Right. Like what I'm trying to do is to destroy everything faster.
It's even more not. I know we did really good not bringing this up, but like that's so not Lovecraft. the idea of like just casually ignoring the eldritch beasties, so that because you're like, hey, I need to get this robot bit.
I need this robot.
I dig it. I really dig it. Like I love it. Yeah, it's
all right.
It's an
So. Where were we in the 10-minute check?
The 10-minute check is, I think it does relatively well, but I really wish it was a little bit faster in getting to how this game feels quite different to a lot of other twin-stick shooters. Because like there's a little bit there, but I feel like they can bring that forward. I feel like there's space to dump that on players earlier, especially because this doesn't feel like it's trying to be an introduction to the genre.
Right.
I feel like it's a little slow to get to the differentiator, if you will.
Okay.
But I know the buttons, and I get there not long after it, and it makes sense, and it feels quite different, as I said, to other games that I've played in the genre, which is excellent. Which is...
Springsteen rises to every challenge.
Suddenly, Springsteen.
Yeah, he's willing to write a song about damn near anything, even if he isn't a fan of cosmic horror or magician electricians. But he came through, and here's what he delivered to my door. The sun is the past, earth is present, to the future is the moon. But the old ones stir and waiting The abyss stares, it is soon.
Yay.
Thank you.
You know how long I have waited for Ballad Springsteen as opposed to Gruff Springsteen?
Yeah, I gave it a try on the drive home today, and I thought that it didn't sound like complete asshole, so I decided to give it a go.
And that means
Alrighty.
it's time for the plugs.
If you'd like to get in contact with us and let us know what you thought, what you're thinking, or if you have any questions, you could email us. That would be one option. That email address would be contact@thefirst10minutes.com. You also can find us on many of the things that exist on the internet. Some of those things include Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, probably still SoundCloud, Libsyn, Instagram. Mm-hmm. That's probably a good enough selection. There's probably more. There are probably we have accounts we don't even know about. That's how popular we are, right? In all of those places, we are the first 10 minutes with the 1 and with the 10, and you can find us there, and we'd love to hear from you. You can also see other content that we produce in the Let's Play variety on our YouTube channel, which again you'll be able to find on YouTube, funnily enough. And our channel will be the first 10 minutes. Hey, Aaron, are you on the internet somewhere that people can yell at you on?
Sure am. Twitter, @RundownFlamingo. Tony, what about you?
On Twitter, I am @Kalinskald. That's KALINSKALD. And I also do a game development podcast where I interview game developers about what makes them tick. It's called Downloadable Context, and you can find it at downloadablecontext.com, which is now also searchable on Spotify. Ooh. Hey, Steve.
Yeah? Oh, internet. Yeah. Twitter _Steve Halliwell. You can also try stevehalliwell.com, which will let you find me in a number of other places and see what I'm up to there.
Tremendous.
Which I think brings us to a close.
I think it does.
Yes, that's all that we have for you on this particular episode. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you again next time.
Bye.
See ya.